first in high definition from the station on your side. This is WAVY News 10.
But at this point in time, all of us have to take this storm very seriously.
We're on your side with what you need to know about Hurricane Irene. Here's what's going on at this hour.
There are states of emergency in both Virginia and North Carolina. A mandatory evacuation in Ocracoke and Dare County.
The mandatory evacuation for Currituck applies to tourists, and a voluntary evacuation for low-lying areas of Norfolk, Sandbridge, and parts of Accomack County.
Norfolk is also opening 6 shelters tomorrow night. Granby, Norview, and Maury High Schools, Lake Taylor Middle, Campostella Elementary, and the East Ocean View Senior Center.
Hurricane Irene blew through the Bahamas earlier today. Here's the latest video we have from there. Some homes were washed away. Others lost their roofs. Power lines and trees are now blocking roads.
And now our area is bracing for impact. Ted on your side has crews on North Carolina's Outer Banks, in Virginia Beach, and in Norfolk, where we're going to start tonight's coverage of Hurricane Irene with Chief Meteorologist Don Slater. Brand new numbers in the Super Doppler 10 Weather Center. What do you know?
Well, they don't look good. Yesterday at this time, we were showing you information where it looked like Irene would stay just offshore of Cape Hatteras. And last night it bumped westward a little bit and was onshore over Cape Hatteras. And now tonight, the forecast is for this storm to be much farther inland. I want to show you what's going on. First of all, there's a watch in effect for the northern neck and the middle peninsula, but there's nothing in your area right now. Get that out of the way. We want to talk about Irene. That's our big story. You can see again where this storm is located. It's very, very big. It's about the size of Texas in terms of its breadth. So again, it's very, very wide. The latest on the storm, Category 3, 115-mile-an-hour winds, moving to the north-northwest at 12 miles an hour. It's about 850 miles away from us. There's where it is. Saturday at 2 o'clock, 110-mile-an-hour winds. It moves to the south of Ocracoke. Then it traverses eastern North Carolina, emerges over the Virginia Beach ocean front, and by Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock over southern New Jersey with 85-mile-an-hour winds. Thereafter, it moves up to New England on Monday afternoon and then into the Canadian Maritime provinces thereafter. So here's where it is Saturday afternoon, 110-mile-an-hour winds. Right now, it's got 115 moving to the north-northwest. It's likely to move north-northeastward and again move across eastern North Carolina. Now remember back to yesterday when it was just offshore. So again, with that storm moving offshore, that was a lot better. But again, that's not happening. It looks like it's going to take an onshore route and emerge somewhere near the Virginia-North Carolina border. That's the latest thinking on this. It's been bumped westward, not just 30, 40 miles, but a good 60 miles farther inland. Now, what does this mean for the Hampton Roads area? Again, when it's down into here, it's got 110-mile-an-hour winds. It does cross some land, but there's very, very warm water, shallow water over the sound, so it's going to hold on to its strength as it pops. The center of the storm pops right across Virginia Beach during the nighttime hours. So again, it's likely to continue right on through our area. Yesterday, I was saying that it was likely that, again, it was offshore. That's where the forecast track was, offshore. Now look at these models. They're right on in over the top of the Virginia Beach oceanfront coming up on Sunday night. Now again, yesterday, here's where the track was. It was right on through here. It was moving offshore. But now, and I was saying this is the worst case scenario, this one right into here. Well, it's kind of in between. It's right on into here. So again, we are looking at a major storm, and the eye of the storm, with the eye of the storm being right on into here, we could see significant hurricane for especially the Virginia Beach oceanfront, anywhere along the southern Chesapeake Bay. We could see moderate to major tidal flooding, torrential downpours, and certainly hurricane force winds. Now, with all of this in mind, let's take a look at our Saturday forecast. Now, Saturday during the day, conditions should deteriorate all day long. It'll start really in the pre-dawn hours in terms of heavy rain for the Outer Banks. We're looking at 45 to 50 mile an hour, 55 mile an hour winds to start the day, but winds will be gusting over 100 miles an hour later on in the day and into the evening hours. 45 to 75 for the Elizabeth City area and northward, 45 to 65 miles an hour, a little bit farther northward. Now we move up to the south side of the Hampton Roads area, and really we could see some of these 55 to 85 mile an hour winds along the northern bay here late at night. It's likely to be around midnight or later, but really we're likely to see even tropical storm force winds well inland and torrential downpours. We could see 6, 8, 12 inches of rain, perhaps even some pockets of 15 inches of rain. This is a major, major storm, and right now it's taking aim at our area. There's where we are for the peninsula. We can see major to moderate tidal flooding, even up to the middle peninsula toward the York River. We could see some major to moderate to major tidal flooding there. For the eastern shore, it's likely to be more towards Sunday morning. It'll be overnight and into Sunday morning. That's what we've got right now. Just now got the latest from the Hurricane Center in terms of what's going on with Irene. And again, Irene is very, very far away. Your plans should be carried out right now. Again, it's going to be a Saturday when this thing hits. You might have Saturday morning to move around in the Hampton Roads area, but then by Saturday afternoon, conditions will really deteriorate with heavy rain. Saturday night, the wind and some tidal flooding. High tide around 9 o'clock in the evening on Saturday.
All right, Don, those sentiments have been echoed from Richmond. Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell issued a warning to take Hurricane Irene seriously by staying off the roads this weekend.
They need to plan on staying off the roads Saturday and Sunday or until debris is appropriately removed. But Saturday is going to be a horrendous day for travel. There will be roads and bridges closed, and so all the preparation needs to be done today and tomorrow.
And this afternoon, Virginia Beach issued a voluntary evacuation order for Sandbridge.
10 on your side's Ann McNamara continues our live team coverage now.
And we understand there could be more, and you have breaking information about some more shelters possibly, right?
Tom, this is the first announcement that there will be shelters in Virginia Beach. I just got off the phone with officials not 5 minutes ago. They tell me the first shelter will open tomorrow at 6 o'clock, Friday at 6 o'clock, Lansdowne High School and also Salem High School, and there will be others following that. Now, on Saturday morning, there will also be one at 8 o'clock. That one will be at Birdneck Elementary. They'll also open Cox High School. Now, if you need medical attention, you want to make sure you go to the one at Salem High School. All these shelters, again, announced. This is the first time we've heard that there will be shelters in Virginia Beach, and they're going to need them because officials tell me it's physically impossible to evacuate this area.
Sand is why they came, but now it's a sign they could be leaving early.
We plan to leave early. They didn't know it yet. And I don't dare to tell them so, but...
Kids, now that you know. The city of Virginia Beach issued a voluntary evacuation of Sandbridge Thursday, warning people in other low-lying areas they could be next.
If they force me out, I'll go. I'll go if they force me.
Virginia Beach officials say the city is using oceanfront sand to build a pyramid at 2nd Street, 25 feet wide, 15 feet above sea level.
Our primary concern in Big Most defense is the tidal flooding, but we also want to be cognizant of the wind threat.
The other Irene preps sandbagging public buildings, clearing drains, and removing lifeguard chairs.
We got to get out of town. Got to make it back to Jersey.
Now, about those evacuations, we do know that Sandbridge is asked to have a voluntary evacuation. That starts tomorrow at noon, Friday at noon for Sandbridge. Now, also, these areas are urged to listen for possible evacuations. That's Broad Bay in the Bayfront area here in Virginia Beach, also Lynn Haven, Chicks Beach, and if you live in the Laskin Road area from First Colonial to Birdneck, you're also asked to make sure you are looking for those evacuations if they are announced either tonight or also they say they could come as early or as late as tomorrow morning. Reporting live in Virginia Beach, I'm Ann McNamara, 10 on your side.
Residents and tourists on North Carolina's Outer Banks are also preparing for Irene. 10 on your side's Andy Fox continues our live team coverage now from Nags Head. Andy, how are things there?
Yeah, well, you can see the beach behind me is just absolutely empty. I've been speaking with emergency management sources, and they said in their discussions, when they saw the worst case scenario, they realized that the path that was coming was the worst case scenario, and they ordered evacuations, and it's been a day of getting out of town. Last year on the OBX, Earl couldn't break through, but the question is, will Irene? The Roscoe family put up this sign, "Good night, Irene." Peter is the town manager of Southern Shores, telling even residents to get out.
Basically at the stage where we're just waiting now. All our town equipment is secured and vehicles are secured, and basically we're in communication with our citizens, just advising them to evacuate, because we have a mandatory evacuation now as of 8 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Evacuation in progress off the Outer Banks, orderly and smooth at 2:30. The backup only a mile, but traffic moving. Traffic was moving everywhere, and the lights synchronized just right. Trooper Carl Libby.
Some of these DOT guys were telling me they saw a lot of outflow last night as well, so that's a good thing. I went down 12 this morning. They were leaving from down there as well, south of Whalebone. Everybody seems to be following what they're told to do.
They're like about $10, $15.
Back in Nags Head, Larry Larrabee worried about the neighbors flying debris.
You'll swing around, you'll see all these windows up here on this big hotel. If the wind comes in right, it'll pop them out. And if you know, in other words, some of the things in the hospital, some of these labs, when the wind comes in high, it causes a vacuum. And if it hits against the window, it just tears everything. Then you open it up so that the water can come in.
And these boys from Long Island took a final swim before their families loaded up the car and headed north, the same way Irene is going. No one wanted to get in the car, but they did because the vacation is over. Vacation is over. More on why this big beach behind me might help when the storm hits. That story tonight at 6. In Kill Devil Hills, Andy Fox, 10 on your side.
Hampton schools and offices will close at noon tomorrow because of Irene's threat. Norfolk State University canceled classes for Friday and Saturday. NSU says students who live on campus and can leave should. Christopher Newport University canceled classes for Friday and Monday, and all students must be off campus by noon tomorrow. By the way, the dorms at ODU are closing at 7 tonight. The campus is closing tomorrow 5 p.m. and classes are not going to start until Tuesday.
Our team coverage of Hurricane Irene continues on WAVY News 10 at 5:30. Jason Marks live in Buxton, North Carolina, where folks are preparing to ride out the storm.
And our coverage of Hurricane Irene continues in Norfolk, how you can help crews preparing for the storm. Talked about Virginia Beach and the Outer Banks. The city of Norfolk is doing its part preparing for Hurricane Irene.
Public Works crews have been out for several days now, clearing streets and ditches in anticipation of flooding in its low-lying areas. 10 on your side's Ava Hurdle is live in Norfolk tonight with this story. Ava?
That's right, Nicole. Crews are working to make sure stormwater runoff is not a problem.
Seems like they're getting prepared for a big storm. And that's a good thing.
David Johnson watches a crew go to work on a storm drain along Rogers Avenue in Glenwood Park. They use a vacuum truck to clear out the huge pipes. None too soon for another neighbor, Trish Kell.
We've lived here for 2 years and it's flooded twice up to our front door. And I mean, that far from going inside the house. And they've recently been out here cleaning the storm drains though. So it's a lot better to see them out here at least.
Here's where you can help.
And the one thing you probably noticed coming out of this catch basin were leaves, grass clippings, and trash. Make sure that doesn't find its way into the storm drains.
Crews are also busy cleaning out debris in ditches. And street sweepers are clearing curbs to make sure floodwaters can quickly drain. And by the way, for the first time, the city is using social media, Facebook and Twitter, to keep residents updated on the latest information about the storm. We're live in Norfolk. Ava Hurdle, 10 on your side.
All right, you can see Don Slater busy in the Super Doppler 10 Weather Center. He is tracking Hurricane Irene.
The latest on the storm's path, straight ahead. VDOT's main job during a hurricane is to open roads as quickly and safely as possible. 10 on your side, Stephanie Harris joins us now with more on how crews are preparing to do just that. Stephanie?
Well, Nicole, if you were here during Hurricane Isabel, you remember when the Midtown Tunnel flooded. What a mess this was. Well, VDOT is going to test the tide gates at the Midtown Tunnel and the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel tomorrow morning at 4 o'clock. So if you're out that way, you will not be able to go that way while the test is going on. It's going to take them about 30 minutes, so plan accordingly. VDOT is also mobilizing crews and preparing other roads. This week, crews made road repairs and cleaned up culverts and ditches. If a tree or power pole falls across a road during the storm, it's VDOT's job to clean it up as quickly as possible. This week, they tested and fueled trucks, chainsaws, and generators. They're also getting signs and barricades out near bridges, low-lying areas, and potential evacuation routes to help guide motorists. Now, as a driver, here's what you need to know. Watch for debris on the roadway. If you come across a down power line, do not try to move it. Never drive around barricades or through water that's flowing across a road. It only takes 6 inches to float a small vehicle. Slow down when driving through standing water. If you go too fast, you can hydroplane and lose control. Avoid flood-prone areas, especially creeks and low-lying areas. And if a flash flood warning is broadcast, get to higher ground immediately. Now, VDOT is shutting down the Jamestown Scotland Ferry at noon tomorrow, and they're moving the boats to Richmond. Now, keep in mind, VDOT will close bridges and tunnels when they are unsafe due to debris or wind. Now, generally speaking, the Midtown Tunnel will close when winds reach 39 miles an hour sustained. The Monitor Merrimack Bridge Tunnel, James River Bridge, HRBT, and the Coleman Bridge will close when winds reach 45 miles per hour sustained.
So much to drink in because there's so much vital information because of Irene.
So what's the latest, Don?
Well, we've got the latest, and we want to show you what's going on now. We've got, they're probably kind of meaningless, and we were talking about it. What's a watch and what's a warning? Well, hurricane watches and warnings are going up now along the coastline and into the southern bay as we move to within around 48 hours of what's going to be happening into our area. Now, usually I'd be talking about the fact that we got a severe thunderstorm watch in effect until 9 o'clock for parts of the Middle Peninsula and Northern Neck. There's no rainfall out there with any of this for our area, but again, it's out there, and we'll let you know if something pops into our area. But we want to talk about what's going on with Irene. Huge storm. Here's the state of Texas right here, and I'll just move my hands over it. It's pretty close to the same size as the state of Texas, so the width of the thing is just really huge, and it's a very strong storm. Category 3. It does have 115-mile-an-hour winds, moving to the northwest now at 12 miles an hour. It's into the northern Bahamas. There's a latitude and longitude, and again, moving northwestward, but expected to move more northward and then northeastward. By Saturday afternoon, it is about to strike areas just southwest of Ocracoke and move on up through eastern North Carolina. As it does so, the sounds are warm. It'll still feed into that warm water. 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon, it's up into southern New Jersey, moving across Long Island, New York. There's where it is by Monday afternoon. It's pretty well gone, moving on up into the Canadian Maritime provinces. And we showed you this earlier, showed you the approach of this storm for North Carolina residents Saturday afternoon at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Now, yesterday at this time, we were concerned about the storm, and I was certainly not saying we were out of the woods, and certainly not for the Outer Banks. I knew the Outer Banks was going to get trouble, but the track of the storm was right on into here, moving in that direction. So again, we weren't as concerned, and I said a worst case scenario would be a little farther inland. Well, that's what's happening. It's moving a little bit farther inland and right on up through the Virginia Beach coastline, right along the oceanfront into Virginia Beach in terms of the eye of the storm. So again, with that in mind, again, we'll show you it starts out at 110 down to 85 miles an hour by Sunday afternoon, but it's up into New Jersey. But it's going to be pretty close to 100 miles an hour as it moves right on through our area. There's where it is right now, 115 miles an hour, and it's on down over the Bahamas. Again, the forecast models. Yesterday, they were out into here with one outlier out into here, but the rest of them were way on out to sea. Now they're generating the forecasts that are basically right on it, the center line, right through Virginia Beach, and right on up toward the Chincoteague area. And again, yesterday I showed you this. This is what we were looking at. This is last night at 11, actually, and it had bumped a little bit farther westward, and we were saying that, that would be okay. We'd still get a storm, but the worst case scenario was out into here, well, a lot closer to the worst case scenario in terms of what this thing is going to do. So, Saturday, 45, 55 mile an hour winds through much of the day on Saturday, but by later on in the afternoon, it's likely to be around 75 to 100 miles an hour later in the afternoon and early evening. 45 to 75 here, 45 to 65 a little bit farther inland. Torrential downpours throughout the area. Here's where we are for the Saturday afternoon forecast. Saturday morning we'll see some rain off and on, but then Saturday afternoon it becomes torrential. 50, 60 mile an hour winds, 55 to 85 plus late at night, likely after midnight. 45, 75, and again we could extend some of this 85 to the southern, to the northern edge of the Chesapeake Bay, 45 to 65. And again, major to moderate tidal flooding. Here's what's going on for the peninsula. Major to moderate, or moderate to major tidal flooding, 65 to 80-mile-an-hour winds, especially late at night after midnight. And here's where we are Saturday night and Sunday morning, 65 to 80 miles an hour toward the dawn hour. Saturday evening, high tide around 9 o'clock. Isabel, tidal flooding was 7 3/4. I'm just going to do this real quick. Irene is likely, and again, this is an early guesstimate, around 5 to 7 feet. It's a little bit less in terms of tidal flooding, a lot more wind and torrential downpours, 8 to 10 inches, perhaps as much as 12 to 15 inches, huge rain into the area.
We're working hard to keep you ahead of the storm. Do you still have questions about Irene?
Post them here on our Facebook page. We'll have some answers for you coming up next.
All right, many of you have questions about Hurricane Irene.
And you're asking them on Facebook.
And Chief Meteorologist Don Slater is here to answer them. He's the expert. First of all, Lindsay asks, how far west would we have to go to get away from the effects of the hurricane?
Well, I don't. You'd have to get out of Virginia, I think, to get totally out of the effects. But to be safely out of the effects, and again, free from any threat, it'd be toward the Roanoke area. But chances are, unless you live right in a big floodplain, that you can stay home and take care of your home, and take care of your house, and take care of yourselves and everyone else. Chances are most of us are going to shelter in place. It's common sense. You want to pick up anything in the yard that can blow around and be prepared, again, to be camping in your own home without electricity.
And from Kristen now, should we be worried about tornadoes?
In eastern North Carolina, yes, I think so. However, for Virginia, if it follows the track, a little bit less of a threat, yes, we can be concerned about tornadoes. Sometimes these hurricanes do spawn tornadoes as they move ashore. But again, we're going to have 100-mile-an-hour winds anyway.
All right, so if you have any more questions, post them on our Facebook page.
They're really rolling in here. We'll keep getting answers to your questions throughout our 90 minutes of news and later tonight on Fox 43 News at 10 and WAVY News 10 at 11.
Yeah, can you hear me now, Jeff?
In anticipation of Hurricane Irene, city parking garages at the Virginia Beach oceanfront will be open to anyone free of charge through Monday. And if you want to move your vehicle to higher ground, the 9th and 31st Street garages will be open beginning at noon Saturday. The 9th Street garage will be open to vehicles and small campers. The 31st Street garage open to vehicles only. Now, you'll find information about the other cities throughout the 90 minutes of news here and on WAVY.com. And stay with us. Continuing coverage of Hurricane Irene goes on WAVY News 10 at 5:30.